Okay, we are recording and transcribing and live, so a warning that this meeting is being recorded and transcribed and will be placed on our website. And with that, I think we're good to go.
All right, I will call the meeting to order.
And here's Stephen. Hi, Stephen. We just started recording and called the meeting to order. And can
Hello.
folks see the slides?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for making our January commission meeting. Here is the rough outline of the agenda, which was sent ahead of time. I didn't want to go forward yet because we do intros, which I think we should do. And I will start with giving a very warm welcome to Susan Cheeseman, who is our newly designated ex officio member, not to be confused with new to our commission or new to the ex officio position. We're thrilled to have you back, Susan. So welcome. We missed you. Yeah. And let's go around, do quick introductions, who you are, what you represent, and since I'm calling you out, I might as well start with Susan.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Cheeseman. I will be serving as the ex officio member on the SerVermont Commission. Very happy to come back to this role. I've been with the agency throughout my career, so I guess it's been 32 years, but I'm very excited to participate and be a part of your group. I'm trying to think of anything else. I came to this work. I'm a former Vista. I served back right before AmeriCorps was created. So I served out in Arizona, and the National Service bug, I got it then, and I've had it ever since. And still am doing this work because I feel like I learn something new every single day. So happy to be here. And yeah, that's it, I guess. Unless you think there's anything else that might be helpful for me to do in terms of my introduction.
No, you're on the agenda later, so we can always
Awesome.
loop
Thank
back with you if there's anything we missed. And let's play Magic Squares. I'll start with my staff. I'm gonna go with Danielle.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, everybody. Danielle Shaw, SerVermont's training officer. I'm a Peace Corps and AmeriCorps alum, and then I was previously program staff at 2 programs that operated in Vermont before joining the commission.
Thanks, Danielle. Caitlin?
Thanks, Phil. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Caitlin. I'm our Vista Project Director here at SerVermont. I've been in this role since July of 2023. Prior to that, I was also a program director at another one of our AmeriCorps state partners here in Vermont for a number of years. And I am an AmeriCorps and CCC alum, having served many moons ago in the southern region of the United States. And I can kick it to McKenna.
Hi, everyone. I'm McKenna Crosby. I'm SerVermont's program officer. I'm a Vista alum, and I also formerly worked at 2 AmeriCorps programs here in Vermont. I think Jay's our last staff member.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jay. I'm the Communications and Recruitment Coordinator with SerVermont, and I previously was a member of the ECO program.
Let's go to you, Megan.
I'm Megan McKeever. I am in Montpelier, Vermont, and I represent mental health.
Thanks, Megan. Jade?
Hi there, Jade Christy Maples. I'm in Berlin, Vermont, sort of wearing 2 hats now. I am, I've been in healthcare and healthcare policy for 15 years, but now also representing the Department of Corrections.
And congrats on the exciting new position. I'll kick it to Lee.
I'm not sure if my sound is working. Can anyone hear me?
We can hear you. Slightly distant,
Okay.
but clear.
Yeah, I'm having issues with sound, but if you can hear something, that's better than nothing. CPA from Barre, Vermont. Been on the board for a while.
Thanks, Lee. I'll kick it to Stephen.
Hi, everyone. Stephen Maliwenda in South Burlington with United Way of Northwest Vermont, Grants and Finance Manager for them.
Thanks, Stephen. Chris, are you able to say hello at the moment?
Yeah, I should be able to talk. It's just my video. I'm going to turn it on
Okay.
real quick. I've tried doing this in the past, and it seems it's not liked being on my hotspot. But hey, I'm Chris Embry. I am out of Burlington. I work in human services. I specifically work for Dale right now as a vocational counselor with Higher Ability Vermont. And been on the board for a few years now, and I'm a Vista alum here with SerVermont. So good to see everybody.
Good to see you, Chris, and kick it over to Kaylee.
Hi, everybody. I am Kaylee. I respond to anything because my name is Irish. I am in Hardwick, Vermont. I am a former SerVermont member as well, and represent kind of municipal government. I'm on the select board and also education.
Thank you for that reminder. I forgot about the select board piece for a moment. That's great.
Well, I am up for re-election, so we'll see if I keep doing that.
We'll hope so for you. Patrick, you're at the bottom of the tower of squares.
Good afternoon, Patrick Halliday. I am at the University of Vermont. Previously, I was with the Agency of Education. I'm also, I've been on the commission for quite a while now. I don't know, pre-COVID, I think just pre-COVID. I'm also an AmeriCorps alum. Maybe Susan has me by a year or two, but I go back quite a while. I met my wife in our AmeriCorps. She then also worked for the Missouri Service Commission for years, and our daughter did AmeriCorps. Our son worked for the host organization for our AmeriCorps program. So we're at least second generation with this. So.
An AmeriFamily.
Yeah, and I'm turning off my camera so you don't have to watch me eat lunch. So that I'll be back when I'm done eating.
That's fair. And I'm Phil Coling, Executive Director of SerVermont, and I think we have everybody. Oh, I will say something in my intro because I realized this talking to Susan the other day, or maybe just before, but in 2026, it's all the way in November, but that is when I entered AmeriCorps service as a Vista back in the day. So it'll be 20 years, which feels interesting, is the word I'll use. With that, thank you, everybody. We can jump right in with approval of the minutes for December 2025. This is our only voting item, given the position we're in. So they were sent out ahead of time. And Megan, I'll let you take care of it.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes or any corrections?
So moved. This is Kaylee.
Do I have a second?
Second, this is Chris.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Those not in favor? All right. So moved.
Thank
to approve
you.
the minutes.
Perfect. We'll now open it up for public comment. I think I do want to acknowledge that Caitlin made it into the office today. We always have a physical location so the public can attend. We had not heard from any members of the public that they wanted to, but also in theory, if somebody wanted to just show up, they could. So Caitlin, thank you for covering that, but I don't believe we actually have any members of the public here, unless any of you have comment you would like to offer in this period of the meeting. We'll fast forward in time on the agenda then and jump into some numbers we need to know about. So there's quite a few things going on It's interesting that we just met in December and it feels like nothing has happened, and then a lot has happened since then. And so today I wanted to make sure we sort of paint some of the picture of what all is going on with both our programs and us, because at some point things will start moving very quickly again. And I think having this, being armed with some of this context is good. And despite the fact that in the month since we met, there was a long school break and holiday break, and a lot of nonprofits were closed, and I know a lot of government employees take some time off. Quite a bit happened in that period. So we'll start with enrollment and retention, which we always do. Vermont State University program has 6 members, which is up from the 3 we reported last time. They started a few folks, and we'll dig into what else is going on with these programs a little bit more. And Vermont Housing and Conservation Board has 23 members who all started this week. Danielle and I were both at their orientation. This is a picture that I think Danielle took of me saying hi to them all. And what a lovely group of human beings who want to help people and make a difference. They actually have a couple of their own returners, and then there are a couple folks who had served in the ECO program previously who joined their program. And just an amazing group of folks who are choosing to serve despite some of the rhetoric around AmeriCorps and some of the uncertainty. It's a beautiful thing. So we are very excited about that and to have them in service. And tomorrow, this skips ahead in the agenda, but tomorrow they're doing a service project or service projects at the library in Montpelier, and then at the Country Club Road site, preparing for their winter community event. And so we're going to get to help with an MLK or a pre-MLK Day project, but it's the MLK service project with all those folks again. So our entire team will get to meet them and spend time there. And if you find yourself wanting to join a service project on short notice, feel free to join. I think we're showing up at Country Club Road at 9 o'clock, correct, Caitlin?
9:30,
9:30.
203 Country Club Road, 9:30 to noon, followed by some lunch up at Greenway on College Street. Yeah.
Awesome. So overall, enrollment is happening as we would mostly expect. We've hit a couple bumps with Vermont State University, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. But generally speaking, we have AmeriCorps members and they are in service, and that is a wonderful thing to be able to say because that was not always clear as where we were headed. I wanted to dig in a little bit. I know we've shared these numbers previously, and of course, as I look at the slide, I see that it says 2025 funding, which isn't completely correct anymore. So we always operated on calendar year grants, and last year we swapped over to a grant period that matches the state fiscal year. So this is really our 2025-2026 funding. We're halfway through that pool of funding. So our commission support grant and our commission investment grant are our main grants. We get the general fund match from the Agency of Human Services. That number has been steady and flat for a while, but we're very appreciative of it. And then we get our Vista Supervision Grant, which pays almost exclusively for Caitlin, and other costs of that program are paid out of a cost sharing agreement with our host sites. And then you can see our formula in our AmeriCorps state competitive dollars. So the updates here are that ECO has turned down their competitive funding, which I think you all knew. And I have a little more information about this on another slide, but we have not found somebody who's willing to take that on as a new fiscal host. It's just too complicated of a time. I'll talk about the rest of that process later, but so that funding essentially is going to go unspent. What I wanted to highlight is, like in the rest of the world, costs are rising. And historically, you know, when we had a smaller staff and then for a number of years we had some ARPA money, it was very easy to absorb cost increases for things like health insurance, which I know every single organization and state government are dealing with. That's of course out of our direct control. All SerVermont employees are state employees and have access to the state benefits. So, it's not something we could cut, nor would we want to. We don't really control it, but we have to react to it. And so right now, when you look at our total staff costs in both the commission support and the commission investment fund grant, which really doesn't include, I'm not singling her out, but I'm singling the program out. Our Vista program director is handled a different way. But when you look at everybody else, salaries and benefits account for 467, almost 468,000 out of 538,000. So 87% of our funding from the federal government is spoken for in terms of just salaries and benefits. And right now that's fine because we have some unexpended funds from last year, including things we were not able to do, like have conferences when we did not have members. So for the moment, and really for at least a year, we should be okay. But as things progress, we may have to make some changes longer term. I really wanted to bring that up now at the very beginning of 2026 so that it's not a surprise for anybody down the road when we say, oh shoot, we're getting pretty close here. We are also leveraging that staff to save money in other categories. So probably one of our best examples was Danielle, and actually really Caitlin too, even though it's Vista, but Danielle and Caitlin working with the AmeriCorps programs last year to bring everybody together for one training. It saved those programs money because it was better coordinated, although they all contributed massively to planning that too. I don't want to diminish that role, but essentially the point of having these staff positions is so that some of those costs that we would just incur for conferences and whatnot are now being absorbed, or I would even say mitigated. Like next month, we're hosting a great disaster services training for all of the members that just started that Danielle is coordinating, and members are going to get a tour of the Emergency Operations Center and all this great stuff. But because we have the capacity to coordinate that now, which we did not previously, that's being hosted in a conference room in the state office complex, and we're coordinating with folks who we don't have to pay to present and all of that. So no need to worry, but I think knowing and understanding that 87% of our federal funding and the money in our federal grants, including the match, goes towards staffing. Any questions about that? Perfect. And we can now move into updates and discussions. And I am going to Susan. Susan, I did this as kind of, because it was funny. I went to go on the AmeriCorps website and steal a logo, and I just automatically did that, and I forgot that it's down. It's been down for a while. It's coming back, but
Yeah.
this is more a reminder for myself, so I'm gonna stop sharing that slide and ask you for an update that you're able to provide.
Yeah, I mean, I just have some talking points and just wanted to say hello to everybody. Very excited to be able to be back playing this role as an ex officio on the commissions. I think I'm not sure exactly what everybody knows in terms of what the situation has been over the last year. It's a lot has changed, but the structure that we have now, I'll share the Office of Regional Operations, which I'm a part of. We now have gone from having 8 different regions to 2 super regions. So we have what's called ORO, or Office of Regional Operations, in the East, and then in the West. And so in part that's due to we have fewer staff people that are now part of AmeriCorps doing the work. So your state, of course, is part of ORO, Office of Regional Operations East, and that includes the former regions that were called the Southeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Midwest, and then the Northeast. So you probably are used to hearing before that you're the Northeast. So now the Northeast is part of these 4 regions that so anyway, so super regions, as we're calling ourselves, I think we're dropping the super. We, are just going to call them regions. Hopefully we are super regions and you experience that, but we're just going to call them regions. We have 25 to 30 portfolio managers now that are doing the work in each of the regions. And each of the regions has 2 to 3 what are called associate portfolio managers. So like in our region, that is Aziza, who is amazing, who is part for our region. And then each region has 8 or 9 senior portfolio managers. So I'm one of the senior portfolio managers that make up that. And then we have only 2 grants management specialists. So we're kind of living into this new reality of being fewer staff. One of the things that has changed is portfolio managers used to have a portfolio, hence their name, portfolio managers. But now, due to the reduction of staff, we are using regional mailboxes, which is obviously feels like a little more governmental. So it's frustrating. We're working through that process to try to be timely in our responses. And it is a big change in the way in which we operate. So I will say that. The mailbox is northeast@americorps.gov. And so what happens is that I, as a senior portfolio manager, am doing the intake along with other senior portfolio managers to move messages that then get responded to portfolio managers. So anyway, so you probably have seen some of those changes if you are in touch with any grantees, or if you are staff on SerVermont, you probably very much experienced that. And I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. I also will say that this role now of me as an ex officio, I am the agency representative, but one of the things that's changing is that for any grant making things, like say Phil, you have an amendment or something that you need to have done, that will go to northeast@americorps.gov and get assigned to a portfolio manager and any number of portfolio managers. You're not going to have like a single point of contact anymore. It's basically like a group effort to respond as quickly and hopefully as comprehensively as we can. So yeah. So, I mean, there are other things that I can share, like, what happened to the ASN staff. Like, so the AmeriCorps State and National and headquarters, now they only have 4 staff members. They have an acting director, they have an acting deputy director, and they have 2 grants review specialists. I mentioned that because that's a big change from the way that we used to do things. So we have, fewer people that are managing that. Some of the changes in the evaluation, impact, and compliance work are that we're trying to streamline our agency to simplify and to reduce risk where we can. So we moved evaluation and impact work from the AmeriCorps State and National to the Office of Research and Evaluation, which is makes sense, but it also is another change that we went through. And we moved all the compliance work that we had with the Inspector General and from ASN to, again, consolidated into the Office of Risk and Monitoring. So let me look here. Let me tell you more fun, exciting things. Currently, my daughter is serving with AmeriCorps NCCC, so I was very excited. Caitlin, I don't think I knew that you were an NCCC alum, but that's awesome. Makes me really happy. She is currently serving in San Antonio, Texas with Habitat for Humanity, and I can tell you it's like life-changing for her. So I sometimes, need to remind myself of the good work that we do with AmeriCorps, with all of this like breathtaking change and trying to adapt to this new environment that we're in. So overall, NCCC currently has 45 members that are actively serving, which is, a little bit of a reduction. They are moving and restructuring so that they have like a headquarters unit and a field unit. So they used to have campuses, like 4 different campuses. They're in the process of figuring out their consolidation plan. The other thing that I will say is we had for our region 170 new vistas that began serving this week. So that's exciting. And it's in comparison to what we did last year, it's only like a 10% reduction, which to me is like miraculous that that's happening. So I'm very happy that we still have members in service and that are, contributing to the good work that we all collectively do. Let me look here and see if there's anything else. I don't know if this is of interest to you or not, but I am assigned to 3 other commissions. So I will be attending your meetings as I'm available. We aren't currently in a position that we're able to travel. So I'm very thankful for the fact that these are public meetings and recorded so that people can have access to it and that I'm able to participate. I'm also going to be ex officio for New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, which are lovely, wonderful states. So I'm happy to do that. Yeah, so I think I will leave it with that. I don't know if there's probably a million questions that you have that I'm not going to be able to answer. But I did want to make myself available to try to answer any questions that I can or to hear anything that you would like to share with me. Phil, is there anything else that you were hoping to hear from me or that you would like?
Yeah, I'm interested if anyone else has any questions based on that.
Okay.
Probably the only other thing I would add is you and I were able to connect
Yes.
2 days ago and catch up and talk about what's been going on with our portfolio and whatnot, just to kind of get you up to speed and for me to get up to speed on how all that is working. So I appreciated that. And then just a comment on the sort of how things are working. For a period of time, we were emailing that Northeast mailbox for things that we needed, and what would be sent back to us was not signed by any particular person, and issues would kind of get handled, or issues or whatever needed to happen would get handled. And then it was, I'm sure, unfortunately for all of the AmeriCorps staff, right before the government shutdown, I think is when it happened, we started to see things be assigned to particular individuals, and then we would work with that individual to resolve that issue or to take care of whatever needed taken care of. And the process was actually pretty efficient. Just to be clear, we've had some very good portfolio managers who have really taken care of us. And those folks were great, but there were always things we had to do with AmeriCorps State and National that sometimes took longer because we wouldn't have the same person, or our portfolio manager would have to be helping them. And so of recent, and actually on the next slides, I sort of call some of these things out. There's been a big push since the government shutdown ended to take care of some of those things that have been lingering out there and push things forward, including like some things we were not expecting to hear right before the holidays that we heard right before the holidays and actually are taken care of by now. So
it's great to hear.
We appreciate you working in that structure, and we'll see how it goes. And I'm sure it won't be perfect, but I also know that folks are definitely trying to take care of stuff. So I'd be interested if any board members have questions for Susan, because you obviously have a different perspective than we do. Or not, or none.
I love none. It's okay.
Not a
well,
commissioner,
Susan,
but
go.
Sorry. Not a commissioner, but Susan, what was the number of vistas that you had said started?
Yeah, 170.
170. Were
Right.
Do you have a sense of regionally where folks are?
I don't.
Okay.
That's one of the things that we're still trying to work through this new structure of, and I'm sure you're because you have a Vista project, you're experiencing this. Like we're trying to figure out how we can approve placements. So we've made it all the way through like February's volunteer, VMO, the virtual member orientation, but we haven't been able to do it for the rest of the fiscal year. So I don't know because I'm not as close to the process now. So like I'm only getting like the round numbers, but I do think it would be useful. I'll plan on the next meeting, like being able to share like a little more information about where those members are going. But it's exciting because in January, traditionally, that's a hard time to recruit people to serve because it just seems like a more natural time. Of course, Vista's open to anybody 18 and over, but we have a lot of people who like are recent college graduates. So usually summertime, as you well know, is like when we're placing more members. But I was really encouraged that, that we had so many in January, kind of what I would consider a little more off cycle.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
And if it's for commissioners to know, last year, 2025 was 60 years of Vista. And given some of the happenings last year, there was not a celebration, but there will be a virtual celebration of sorts, I'm told, later this month. And so when I do have the registration link for that virtual call, Phil, we can pass that around if folks want to hop on and especially to our Chris, our Vista alums in the room who might want to participate in that.
And not to jump too far ahead, but while we're on the subject of Vista, will also be the 15th anniversary of our Vista program.
That's
if you
amazing.
can believe, if any of you can believe any of that, it's kind of wild. Very cool. Other questions for Susan? I already asked Susan if she can see the future and how everything is going to work out with the competition and stuff, and she can't. So I'm not going to ask it again.
No.
Actually, I didn't ask it to begin with. I know. Susan, it's wonderful to have you back. Thank you for the update and kind of painting a little bit more of a picture of what things look like from your perspective right now. You've always been great to work with, so we look forward to continuing to work with you, and let us know how we can best support that. I am going to conspire with the other states to try to find a way to make sure we're all bringing Susan back into the fold and celebrating that we have a great ex officio. So
you're very
thank
kind.
you.
Right back at you. I love working with Vermont. I'm not allowed to have favorites, but if I did,
it would be each one of your states when you're dealing with them. All right. Thank you, Susan. I'm going to pop back up this slide deck, although it's not that exciting at the moment. And I want to shift over to talking about our service to career pathways work and some updates over there that are kind of exciting. And Danielle, do you want to say what you want to say? And I'll make sure, well, you make sure we say everything we want to say.
Sure. Thanks, Phil, for putting this on the agenda. So Service to Career Pathways, that work started last year with our participation in the National Governors Association's Service to Career Pathways Policy Academy. And we put together a team with some representatives from the Department of Labor, from philanthropy, and then Efficiency Vermont to kind of represent industry. And I think a lot of the work that we had initially planned was interrupted with grant terminations, but I felt really thankful that our partners on that team really helped us pivot and start to think about what a bigger picture of service in Vermont could look like in terms of workforce development. So we put together a summit in September that some of our commissioners were able to attend, and it was great to see you there. I think we had 70-ish partners in the room. representing elected officials, education, community organizations, businesses and employers. And we had a pretty broad conversation, but I think we made some new connections, which were really helpful. I guess like the technical work with the National Governors Association has ended, but the team that came out of that project is still meeting, which is wonderful. And then I think what I really took away from that work is that service to career pathways can and should be bigger than just national service, but we also have a niche within that work. So we're looking at putting together kind of a similar event, but kind of really focused in on the AmeriCorps community in Vermont next month. So we're inviting program staff and former program staff for the programs that just wrapped up operations, host site supervisors, some alumni, and some currently serving members to talk about what service to career pathways means specific to AmeriCorps, both kind of the opportunities that come with national service and then all of the fun guardrails we have to navigate. So we're looking forward to that. Once we have the date, it's February 11th. We're still kind of settling in on the time, but once we have those details, I'll share it out with commission members, and if any of you are able to attend, we'd love to have you. Anything else on that, Phil?
Yes, which was not, I had completely forgotten about it, but you said the word technical and then it popped in my head. One of the things that the National Governors Association grant also is doing is making some adjustments to the state of Vermont's job link system so that we will be able to have AmeriCorps members entered into that system and then track them as far as employment, no matter where they go next. So we'll actually, for the first time ever, get some data back that lets us know some things we already sort of know, like what percentage of those folks stay in Vermont after service and where they go when they don't, but also income information. So once they leave service, what kind of jobs are they getting and how much money? And within that, we are not the technical experts on that system, but our understanding working with the folks who do understand is that it can be hard to track folks and you can't just do it without them sort of opting in, except for in the case of AmeriCorps. There's actually a carve out for AmeriCorps programming where we're allowed to communicate with those other states and automatically receive their data that will show that to us. So we'll see what we can actually do with that data. But that's actually a big piece of the project kind of on the back end that we actually don't deal with too much day to day. Some folks at the Department of Labor that work with that system all the time are the folks doing that for us, but the outcome of it could be pretty exciting. And I think until now we had neglected to mention that. So I'm really glad you said the word technical and that just popped in my head as something that also happened. I think that's it for that. And then if you want to touch on Youth Mental Health Corps and what we're doing with that.
Sure.
Briefly.
Yeah, so there are some private partners, the Schultz Family Foundation and the Pinterest Foundation, which have supported, I think they're in year 3, providing planning and implementation grants for youth mental health corps programs. And those can look very different depending on where they are being implemented. Some of those programs provide peer recovery support specialist positions. Some of those positions are based in schools. Some of them are community health navigators. But there's another round of funding coming up. And in looking at their materials and having some conversations with our NGA partners, it feels like Vermont is at a good stage for a potential planning grant. We've looked at some information. Vermont's Promising Jobs Report. There's actually a committee in the Department of Mental Health that's looking at workforce development in the mental health field. So we are putting together a planning grant application, which would be due next month and would fund that activity, I believe, April through the end of next year, to see if we might be ready for any sort of implementation. So lots of exciting conversations to come with potential implementation partners.
Thanks, Danielle, and thanks, Danielle, for kind of leading that work. I think one just general thought I have that I'll share on the tail of that, but it's not exclusive to that, is one of the really nice things about our staff capacity right now and some of these opportunities is that, yes, things have been chaotic and uncertain, and we're waiting on things that are a normal part of our business that are significantly delayed. And then there's a lot of focus right now on some of this, what's next? How do we attach AmeriCorps to specific problems and leverage AmeriCorps to address specific issues? And what are those issues? And what funders are in the room? Historically, we don't talk to a lot of private funders over time. And here we are having just done a grant with the National Governors Association. We, of course, had the partnership with the Volunteer California Fund. And now, you know, looking at, hey, how could we create this? And how do we make funding sustainable? So being able to go back to old partners and find some new partners and talk about these things has been really useful. And at the end of the National Governors Association work, or again, it kind of continues, but the main grant period had its summit. You know, the decision was made about the folks who were involved in that while we don't have right now we don't have a specific thing we're going after. We don't have a specific service to career pathway that we're going after, but we think there's a lot of potential. And so everybody was excited to continue meeting as a group monthly so that when these things do arise, these opportunities arise, or we do identify a pathway we want to specifically build out, we can do that. So I think we have some really positive stuff going on in terms of new relationships and new partners and new conversations that honestly for the last bunch of time, at least 5 years, we haven't had as much capacity to do that. So thank you for that update, Danielle. Patrick, I think you're muted.
Sorry, first time I've ever been on a Teams call. What was the date for the Service to Career event?
February 11th.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And while that is soon, that was just set. So we have not been hiding information. Sorry if that feels soon. Yeah, Megan.
I was just gonna say, it's super exciting to hear about the youth mental health core. And if there's anything I can do to be helpful, I work at Washington County Mental Health, and I'll just say, like, it's exciting too because I think it really aligns with DMH's goals around increasing peer support in Vermont, and also exciting because I think we've kind of consistently struggled with how do we provide peer support to like adolescents and things like that. So it feels exciting opportunity to be involved in this. So just wanted to give that 2 cents, but happy to be helpful in that scope too if there's anything that's needed.
Absolutely. And it is, I always find that one of the interesting things about a planning grant is you kind of want the answers as you're going into it, but the whole purpose is to find the answers. And I think trying to get involved at this point when there are some states like Colorado and John Kelly, our counterpart out there, who have had massive success with this already. And so we really can like get the right people in the room and look at what other places are doing, say, does any of that work for us? Or do we need to do something completely different? And who are the right people and all of that? And so I think already we've been successful in starting that conversation. And what you're saying, we're hearing from the Department of Mental Health and some folks who have been involved in that. And yes, I had already identified you as somebody who we are going to talk to in this process. And that application is due mid-February, so we're working on it like live action. Anything else about that? I'm glad there's some excitement and interest. All right, moving on. I will share again for a second here to talking about the VISTA program update. Caitlin, you want to start and I'll fill in any blanks, although I don't think there are any.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Phil. So currently we have 8 vistas serving. I think you all know that. 2 of which were scheduled to complete their service in March. One will be doing so, and one actually has requested an extension. So speaking of Aziza, she's helping with us with that right now. So really excited to hopefully keep that disaster services vista on a few more months into the summer. This is, a photo from a recent training. We actually had the vistas in here in Waterbury on Monday for a grants writing, grants management training. It was a day-long training here, and that was great. It's always good to have folks here. Yes, we were just invited to apply for the 2026-2027 program year, and we're really pleased to see 21 member positions and 1 Vista leader position in that invitation to apply. So we're thrilled to grow the program this coming year. The Vista leader position actually just went live today on the AmeriCorps portal and in Handshake. So really excited to kick off recruitment. So yeah, we are actively working on getting that application submitted ahead of the 30th. Let's see, what am I missing? Those folks will begin in August. We will run our standard cohort model where they will serve August to August with the Vista leader, hopefully starting a little bit earlier in July. Let's see, what else am I missing? Those are the big pieces, but we're really excited to see those numbers and have those slots. I've already begun the request for proposals for host sites went out the first week of January in preparation for this to a number of organizations across the state. We cast a wide net. I've already heard from some returning and potential new sites that we're seeking out that are interested. I've had a few calls over the past few weeks with folks asking, what is this all about? How do we get involved? And asking for support with their letters of intent, which are due early February. So I'll have a better understanding of organizations that are interested in hosting come early February. And our goals really are, we want diverse projects. We need to be in diverse regions and pockets of the state. We need to be statewide. And our priority areas in Vermont that we've identified in this RFP. Our RFP is also on our website if commissioners are curious, or if you'd like to pass it along to organizations in your region, please do so, or in your network. Our priority areas being housing security, workforce development, of course, and disaster services. But we are interested, like I said, in a wide variety of projects. So we're excited to hopefully welcome 22 new vistas come August of 26. And I'm happy to answer any questions on that as well.
Thank you, Caitlin. And again, I think we've shared this before, but this Vista team is just amazing. They're great folks who are really, they've formed this awesome team. And while it's a little bit smaller than we're used to historically, they're incredibly powerful and amazing. And it's just been good to get to know them and to see everything that they can do. So thank you, Caitlin, for seeing that through. I think this is the start of, I want to highlight like, a lot of what is happening at AmeriCorps is happening quickly right now and on relatively short notice. So historically, we wouldn't be invited to apply for this grant until a few months ahead of when it might start. And this is obviously, we learned that we would have the opportunity to apply on the 12th and it's due the 30th. So basically business weeks, and it doesn't start until it'll be the very end of June. So a little bit interesting timing as compared to usual, but that's why we stand ready. That's why we're pretty agile. That's why we have kept with our normal process. So Caitlin was already out ahead of it and asking for some and having the RFP out, asking for host sites, and in casting that wide net. I think the other piece I'll reiterate that we talk about is, especially right now, it's really interesting who's interested in serving and where they want to serve, and offering as many different service opportunities as possible will help us fill slots and make sure that individuals who are interested in particular service experiences can do that. So I say, to say it more simply, basically, if we cast a wide net with the different positions we're offering, and we cast a wide net in terms of who we're recruiting, we'll be able to make more matches than if we say, hey, here are the, we have 20 slots, here's the exact 20 sites that we're recruiting for, and then nothing else is possible. Recruitment seems to be pretty robust generally right now. I mean, VHCB said they were kind of over recruited almost for their full-time positions. So people want to serve. And I think, Susan, you said it, it is a little bit of a weird time of year for people to want to start. We're always used to that fall kind of start or summer. And that's just not the case. I think people want to make a difference. So that's a really cool thing to see. Thank you, Caitlin. I'm going to move in now to talking a bit about the 2026 competition and the NOFO overview. And this is another example of where things are happening fast and furious, and we wait for a while and then we have to react. So we still do not have a notice of funding, and we are going to release our request for proposals following the release of a NOFO, if there is one. I have done some investigation with agency staff, and we don't have any. We have lots of contracting and procurement rules, but we don't have anything about arbitrary timelines. So there are some states that an RFP has to be open for at least 50 days. And we're kind of hearing that this is going to be quick, but they haven't told us how quick, but I'm anticipating, and touching on Vista before this, because you can see, like, we were given 3 weeks. We might be given 3 weeks. I feel like that might actually be longer than we're given 2 weeks. They have to give us at least a few days, but it could be very quick. So we can accommodate that in terms of having some kind of process. It's going to be fast and furious one way or another. Just yesterday in the afternoon, we received an email telling us that instructions for continuation grants, so that would be within a 3-year competitive cycle, will be posted by January 30th. The way the information was conveyed, it wasn't clear if AmeriCorps thought there would still be any kind of competition or a NOFO, or if they were just going to process continuations and then we'd have our formula money. And our association reached out and asked that question and was told they're still planning on releasing a 2026 NOFO when they're told they can do so. It seems that the OMB, Office of Management and Budget, is waiting until there's an approved budget before allowing the release of a NOFO, and that is all tied to the, right now we're in a continuing resolution until January 30th. So really, in the next couple of weeks, we should be able to figure out what is going on. They're still telling us that the turnaround is going to be quick. So I felt it prudent to share kind of some updates on where everything is in the AmeriCorps world right now, because a lot happened since we last met, which again is just 4 weeks ago, 2 true business weeks, and then those odd holiday weeks. So at the beginning of 2025, the Payment Integrity Act monitoring that AmeriCorps always does started. And it took all the way until the 18th of December for us to receive those results. It was a long process. Most of that time we were hearing nothing. Keep in mind that at various points in time, there were fewer AmeriCorps staff and a government shutdown and all kinds of things happening. So that's saying it took a long time is no commentary on that. It's just the reality. In the end, Vermont State University had a disallowance of just over $2,000. That was related to the way their indirect costs were calculated, which typically is not something that this board digs into. It's all done per their indirect cost rates, and whatever happened in their business office had that figure slightly different than what it was. I say slightly, not that we don't care about $2,000, but we're talking a $400,000 plus grant. And so that is being disallowed. And then Resource also had a finding. Those were the two that were looked at. Theirs was $2.48 due to an incorrect salary. I say allocation here, but it was the way the salary was calculated. There was $2.48. We're okay paying that back. It isn't right. Ideally, it's perfect, but in the grand scheme, we'll take that $2.48 finding. So that was the results of the 2025 monitoring. Also, we had two pieces of outreach from AmeriCorps, and I put the dates in bold here, but the 12th of December and then the 23rd of December. Patrick, very generous of you to offer to pay that $248. And I wanted to dig in on this a little bit because it's interesting how it could interact with our applications potentially. So Lee could probably explain this better than me, but any organization that exceeds $1 million in federal funding needs to have a single audit. And most of the time, that means, somebody like VHCB or Vermont State University is receiving lots of federal money, and AmeriCorps is not their major program. In the case of VYCC, for their year-long single audit ending 12/31/24, they received over $1 million in federal funding, and AmeriCorps was a vast majority of that. It was both our grant and less than $200,000 from Core Network, but combined, I think it was close to $750,000. So it actually was their major federal program and the one that their single audit then focused on. They did get a finding and some question costs related to match. They were short match by almost $54,000. A couple pieces on that. So you can see it was for the year ending at the end of calendar 2024. So full transparency, 2023 and 2024, we were in our disaster services mode, and we were absolutely doing everything we need to do to administer these grants. And for most of that time, VYCC was meeting their match, at least on paper. McKenna came on in May of 2024, and immediately we received or not immediately, but the next financial report we received, there were quite a few costs in there related to match that McKenna questioned and that they removed from their match. I won't get into specifics on what those costs were, but basically they had been reporting to us that they were on pace, and then when you remove those costs, that created that gap. That has continued, like even this current year, and the grant terminations did complicate things in terms of what costs are allowable and when and all of that, or identifying which costs can be charged to what. But that has kind of continued where there has been some questioned match reporting. And when you remove that match from their reports, they end up short. We were asked to provide a corrective action plan, which the Agency of Human Services does in the business office. And so basically the corrective action plan amounted to, we're going to make sure they meet their match next time. This problem was really created by us removing that match. And of course, right now we do not have an active grant with them, so we shared that information back with the folks in audit resolution, and they said, okay, we can close this out. So that's taken care of, but did happen. Those costs don't get repaid. They're just short and did not meet their match. Then on the 23rd, we received a notice about Elevate Youth Services, which used to be the Washington County Youth Service Bureau, which in their last year of operation, as we knew they were shutting down shop, they did not meet their match, and they were in a similar position where their single audit through 6/30/2024 was short match, and AmeriCorps was their major program, major source of federal funding. And so we were asked for a corrective action plan on that as well. We actually don't have one because they never received another grant from us. So by the time this audit was completed, we weren't working with them any longer. So that was reported to AmeriCorps, and that should close that out as well. So highlighting this because we have never had programs that had AmeriCorps as their main, or we have never had fiscal hosts that had AmeriCorps as their major federal program. And we have made recommendations to small organizations in the past that the liability or potential liability or the risk exposure from these grants can be pretty heavy. I think this speaks to that it is a little bit difficult if AmeriCorps is your major federal source of funds. It exposes you to this sort of thing as opposed to just having AmeriCorps be another piece of your portfolio. So sharing this also because as we were looking for a home for ECO, and actually I have a slide on that, I'll go there in a minute. Wanted to share that 2026 Payment Integrity Act monitoring has started robustly right on January 5th. They selected the grant. They asked for a series of transactions. We replied, and even before the original deadline, we're now in round 2, and we just responded today, sending them the selected set of transactions. So speaking to Susan's point about how they're coordinating at AmeriCorps, the back and forth taking less than a week, that has never happened before. It used to be a really long lag. We'd be given a couple of weeks to respond. We'd respond. 2 months later, they'd pick a set of transactions. And what's interesting is we can always get them, right? But when you don't hear for 2 months, everybody in the business office kind of moves on and they forget exactly what we were looking at, and then they have to go back and do it all again. And now it's like it's been fresh in all of our minds, and we say, oh, yeah, we know exactly what we need to pull. So it's actually takes less of our capacity as well when these things happen quickly. Moving from that financial piece and audit resolution and all that to an actual program operations update, I'll go right to ECO because one of the interesting pieces for this body to consider as we're looking for new potential grantees and how we pitch the program and all of that is it's both a little bit frustrating and quite nice to hear. But when the Department of Environmental Conservation said, we're not going to do this anymore, their host sites really said, we want to. One of us will take this grant. We can do this. And what they were going for is kind of, they want members. The member experience and the experience of hosting a member was fabulous for them. When you start digging into the weeds a little bit about what it means to be the fiscal host of one of these grants, all the organizations said, I don't know that we have the capacity to do that. That's kind of a lot like now we would need a single audit and we currently don't. Or, you know, we can pretty transparently share what some of the potential risk exposure looks like. And time again, it makes the most sense to have some coverage from a much larger agency rather than take a very small nonprofit, have them hold the program and give them all that exposure. So the sentiment was that they really wanted the program to continue. Members are great. The experience of hosting a member through ECO was great. But once you get to the logistics and the back end, they said, wow, you know, we didn't know we would have to do all of that. And so it speaks to the beauty of the intermediary model too, like one organization taking frankly, the hit for everybody and doing all of the robust admin. So that's something we're learning. And of course, if anybody were to take on, if any organization was to take on the ECO program, there was that one more year of funding, and then they would have been a recompete, and there's no guarantees there at all. And so that would be a really big move to make to get that all up and running, not knowing what would happen the next year. And we're no longer sitting on ARPA or anything like that, so we don't really have much of a buffer. Speaking to VHCB, I think we've covered most of this, but they have their 23 members, they're holding orientation, that program is fully operational and moving ahead. Vermont State University is in a little bit of a different position, and this is all rapidly developing, but unfortunately their program director, so their program director, they have a program director and a program coordinator historically. The program director this fall moved positions within Vermont State University. Very good move for her. And the program coordinator was hired to become the program director. The program coordinator position has been vacant. The program director has a family emergency that needs to be tended to and will be leaving her position. That happened suddenly, and there really hasn't been a point of contact for members or host sites for a couple of weeks. And so we knew things were going to be complicated, but we didn't realize that there was nobody who could really run that program for a period of time. The person who supervises the program director was also out for an extended period of time at the same time. So it was kind of a perfect storm in some ways. We actually spoke with them this morning to get a better sense of what's going on. That's when we learned that the person is officially leaving their position. And we are working to help them get a interim program director, possibly a program director from somewhere else that wants a little challenge for a little while, or possibly somebody they've worked with before who they can tap into, like their previous program director. But basically, we're going to need to be supporting them in ways we have not previously. What's interesting about our work, we cannot run these programs, but we of course know how. And so we can't be the folks, you know, clearing background checks or enrolling people or approving their timesheets, but we know how that all needs to happen. And so fortunately, we have some capacity and folks who have run AmeriCorps programs. And so McKenna and Danielle specifically are going to be working really close with them, as will I. We'll be working with the supervisor of the program director to try to stabilize things, because as it is, we've heard from a couple of host sites that have pretty minor things in the grand scheme that they need taken care of, but we just can't do those things. So they're in a vulnerable position right now where we are concerned about their capacity to continue. For the moment, we're putting out a message soon that host sites and members should loop in the supervisor of the program director and SerVermont staff when they have needs, because again, a lot of those supports we can offer. We're going to work with VHCB to potentially involve their member in our trainings, and our own Vista program can kind of support them. So we will make sure to continue to support the members as we also figure out how to support the program. But it's really unfortunate because they were headed a great direction. We had been working with the new program director to really try to make sure they were on the right path. We're not quite sure what, if they'll have the capacity to turn around an application to the competition or not. And frankly, I told them that's okay, because we're not expecting anything out of the competition, and we have our formula funds, how they're currently funded, and we'll see what that looks like. But that's an update on them, and really, it was last week and this week that this all kind of transpired. And so we wish the best to the former program director. And, you know, we've offered our full support for whatever they need, because family definitely comes first and they have some stuff to take care of. So I actually will say the program director was very concerned about, you know, not doing all the little things and becoming non-compliant. And that's not the position they're in. They're in a position where just some unexpected things happen, and so we need to figure out how to move forward. So, any questions about any of that? All right. So going back to some recommendations and some updated recommendations. If we get a NOFO, we will release an RFP almost immediately. We'll communicate this clearly with interested parties. We never received an application from the DREAM program, and they actually reached out to us and asked, what do we know is going on with the NOFO? And the seemed to think they had fully applied to us, which they didn't. But the good news is we're going to reopen up to whoever, and we'll work with whoever. Given the way things are right now with AmeriCorps nationally, some of our programs, and some of the folks who might be interested in applying for a new grant, it is not a great time to submit anyone who is going to be high risk to the competition. I think we should hold those back. I don't know what we will ultimately be considering, what will be submitted to us for consideration, but I'm saying now that if there's any chance that either from the federal perspective or the state perspective, the applicant would be deemed high risk and we'd be making a high risk grant, exposing ourselves to a little more scrutiny, we should hold that back from the competition. We can always hold things, we always do hold things for formula consideration. And really, if this competition happens quickly, which we've been told it's going to, and it seems like it'll either be late January or in February, historically, our formula portfolio, our formula grant is not due until at least May. And so we have some months when we could figure out those concerns and determine, do we want to make a formula grant or not? So going into this a little more cautious than bullish. There are times where it makes sense to throw it all into the competition and see what happens. And then there are times to perhaps be a little more conservative. And I think right now, given everything going on, we should lean a little more conservative with what we submit to that. And then this isn't a new bullet point, but ensure a fair process that results in the best applicants being selected for submission and adjust those timelines accordingly. So I've already had conversations with the business office about what that could potentially look like, how we have to cover that. If the timeline is quick enough that we receive, like if we receive something this week, tomorrow, and it says applications are due on January 30th, we could, there's different ways we could handle that. We could, of course, try to have either a special or an emergency meeting, depending on how quick the timeline is. Or because we're reacting to the federal government, we could do what we need to do to get whatever we can in, and then the commission could formalize that package at some point down the road. Also understanding that typically you're deciding what to submit to the competition. We're not making any grants at this point, and so there's always the option to turn something down if that's what happens. So I should have had another bullet point that said be flexible and agile and figure this out as we go. Ask will, of course, whenever we get whatever information we have, whatever the NOFO looks like, I will send that to our general counsel for review, and anything they want to tell us we have to do or should do or whatever we will do. And then I'm sure America's Service Commissions will kind of analyze it and figure out what that process needs to look like as well. Let all the commissions know, and then we'll do our best to get something into the competition if it seems at all possible. Questions about any of that? All right. Don't have a whole lot to add here. This is an old recycled slide that I'm not going to dig too deeply into. But last meeting, we were talking about setting some committee meetings, and we are still going to do that. That has not happened in the very short period of time since we last met. We haven't had that capacity, but I don't want it to be lost on us that this is where we're headed as quickly as possible. So essentially a reminder about that. And then we had talked a little bit about our meeting schedule. And at this point, I think it does make sense to get a February meeting scheduled. We also think that, or I should say, we don't think, it was in the email, but when the continuation guidance comes out, we'll also have formula guidance that will presumably have some deadlines for us. And I think that will allow us to schedule the April, May, or June meeting as necessary, or perhaps we'll want more than one. So I will reach out to see when we can have a February meeting. I am in DC for the last week of February, so it's probably like a month from now is when we'll be looking, and hopefully we'll have a NOFO by then. And that brings us to upcoming events. We've touched a little bit on MLK Day, which it's actually January 16th that we're doing service projects, but MLK Day is January 19th. February 11th is the service to career meeting with our programs and partners. February to be determined is the commission meeting when we'll hopefully be deciding what to submit to the competition. And then February 23 through 26, I'll be down in DC for the Ask Leadership convening. And unless there's any other business, I think we made it. Any questions, concerns, comments? No? I will say, thank you all. This has been a wild ride for the last little bit here, and I appreciate you coming along on it. Thanks to the staff, because folks are, I'll say it explicitly, folks are leaning into the ambiguity in some ways. I actually think as we were planning for this February 11th gathering, one of the things that is sticking out to me right now is, yes, we're much smaller for the moment, but that also means that anything we want to try costs less or is, you know, cheaper than if we had 200 members. So for example, some of the potential policy priorities, you know, anything that has money for an alum or a member attached to it, if we have 200 members, you take that figure, you multiply it by 200. Well, right now we have 75. So, you know, it's just a different number that could potentially fund things. So I think while we're small and we're kind of regrouping and the agency is regrouping, I think it's a good time to think about some of these things and like, what does the next phase look like? So I appreciate you all coming along on this wild ride with us. And I think we're in as good a spot as we can be with a pretty bright future ahead of us if things continue to move the way they're moving. So thank you all.
And thank you guys too. This has like been so helpful, and all the work you guys are doing is awesome. So in these challenging times, so kudos to you all.
Thank you. And you can close us out if you would like.
We need a motion to adjourn, correct? Or
we can do that.
Or can I just adjourn?
I think you can do it either way. I think you could just adjourn at the conclusion of business.
I will adjourn then at the conclusion of business.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Phil.
Bye.
Thank you.